Hajia Karimat, Toyin Kekere-Ekun, the CEO of Lotus Financial Services Limited. So please step forward.
Ms. Toyin Kekere-Ekun, a distinguished finance executive with over 24 years of leadership experience across financial strategy, corporate banking, treasury management, business development, and Islamic finance. She is the executive officer of Lotus Financial Services Limited, where she oversees business development and operations for the Lotus Group, one of Nigeria's pioneering institutions in ethical and non-interest finance. She also serves as a non-executive director at Lotus Bank, contributing her expertise to governance, risk management, and strategic oversight. Her career spans impactful roles at leading financial institutions. At Guarantee Trust Bank, she worked in corporate banking and later headed the asset and liability management function in the Treasury Department, managing balance sheet structure and liquidity in line with CBN regulatory requirements. She later joined Stanbic IBTC Bank as segment manager for Islamic banking, where she led strategy, growth, and customer acquisition in the bank's non-interest finance segment. She is a chartered accountant and holds a BSc in accounting from the University of Lagos, as well as an MSc in finance and management from the Cranfield School of Management in the UK. She is certified as a CIFA Sukuk specialist and is an alumna of both the Cambridge Islamic Finance Leadership Program and the Harvard Kennedy School Executive Education Program. Ms. Kekere-Ekun brings a rare blend of technical depth, strategic insight, and sector-shaping leadership. Her contributions continue to influence the growth and sophistication of Nigeria's ethical finance landscape. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Toyin Kekere-Ekun, a Chief Executive Officer, Lotus Financial Services, Chartered Accountant, and Islamic Finance Specialist.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ramadan Mubarak to everyone. Alhamdulillah that we're able to witness yet another Ramadan. May we witness Lailatul Qadr as well, and may Allah accept it from us. I want to commend Admonition Islamic Center for this wonderful program. And Alhaji Adekombi, he does it every year and is commendable, and may Allah continue to reward you. I also recognize our speakers on stage, especially our father, Chief Imam Abdurrahman Ahmad, Professor Alauro, our chairman, Engineer Nasri Giwa, and everyone, and our sister. Okay. All right. So imagine you finance a company, right? And you later discover that they dump their waste into the sea. How would you feel about that? Or imagine you finance a company, legitimate business, and then you later discover that the way they treat their workers almost inhumane. Or imagine a situation where a company maybe borrows 10 million naira for a business, they default, and the amount grows to 40 million naira. So that is what we're here to talk about today. Capitalism, caring capitalism, and then halal wealth. But why are we interested in all of this? Why are we interested in this? That's because on the day of judgment, two questions we're going to be asked, amongst many others, of course, is how did you make your wealth? That's one. And then how did you spend it? So how did you make your wealth and how did you spend it? So how are we going to answer those questions? So that's why we're here today. So back to caring capitalism. Capitalism is basically commerce. Buying, selling, you have demand, supply, prices, and of course the ultimate objective is to make money. Is this allowed in Islam? Yes, it is. 1 second, please. Okay, yeah, so we're back. So like I said, why are we interested? Because of the two questions that we're going to be asked. How did you make your money and how did you spend it? So the first thing is commerce allowed in Islam? Oh, yes, it is. In Quran, Al-Baqarah, that's chapter 2, verse 275 states, Allah has permitted trading and forbidden usury. That's one. And then also in Surah Al-Imran, that's chapter 3, verse 130 states, O you who believe, Do not consume riba, that's interest, doubled or redoubled, so that you may be successful. And of course, we all know that Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was an excellent tradesman. So of course, it's allowed, but with rules. All right. So now, back to caring capitalism, which is basically ethical finance. A movement that has been on for about 30 years now, due to all the scandals of how businesses are making money. And so the movement has been, you know what? Yes, we want to be profit-driven, but we have to be ethical. So guided by ethics. And then not financing things that will negatively affect society. And then also thinking in the long term, not just, I want to make profits in the short term. So sustainability financing. And then regulatory goodwill. So when you take that, Islamic finance takes that and then adds the legality of the Sharia on top of that. And that's when you get a well-rounded system. So what is Islamic finance? I won't go too deep because I know our professor will talk more about that. So it's basically a financial system that operates according to the tenets of the Sharia. Basically, Islamic commercial jurisprudence, which is the fiqh al-muamalat. And there are many principles. You have what is permissible and encouraged. Risk and reward sharing, which Professor Lara will talk more about. You have asset-backed investments. You have ethical screening of investments. You have trust, that's amana. You have transparency. You have unambiguous contracts. You also have Sharia governance, via fiqh al-muamalat, like I mentioned earlier. And you have taking of security is permitted. What is impermissible? Riba, everybody knows that. Charging of interest. Then, of course, excessive uncertainty, that's garar. Then gambling and speculation, not allowed. Hoarding, not allowed. Unethical concerns, and then guaranteeing of profits is not allowed. The essence of Islamic finance is justice, fairness, trust, ethics, and assets. Business growth encouraged. Wealth creation encouraged. Economic growth, of course. And then, of course, why? Because of the distribution of wealth. Increase in zakat. So the more wealth grows, the more we can pay zakat, the more you can give the poor their due. Redistribution of wealth, and then we can reduce poverty. So in the end game, that is it. And that's the beauty of Islamic finance. So back to caring capitalism, which is ethical finance, and Islamic finance. There are many overlaps. The first is that they are guided by profit creation, of course, but with ethics. But Islamic finance now adds the legality with it. Then you have, they both prohibit exploitation and discourages prohibitory practices. However, Islamic finance makes it structurally negative to do this, rather than aspirational, like caring capitalism. Then, of course, while caring capitalism promotes stakeholder capitalism, which is customers, employees, environment, and investors, Islamic finance concentrates more of the ummah, which is the community welfare. They both agree to redistribute wealth. Wealth must circulate, and they both agree to do no harm while you're in business. And of course, justice must be preserved. So while caring capitalism, which is ethical finance, sometimes you might have the risk being shifted to the weaker party, which could be the borrower, the employer, the customer. For Islamic finance, risk sharing is encouraged. And of course, you have your contracts to ensure that. And then, of course, while caring capitalism encourages corporate social responsibility and philanthropy, Islamic finance mandates zakat, right? And of course, there's also sadaqah, there's waqf, and there's ethical screening of investments. In this sense, Islamic finance operationalizes social responsibility. And of course, like I said earlier, there's long-term orientation of both. Islamic finance discourages excessive leverage and speculation, which promotes financial stability. Okay, so how does this affect us personally? I guess the first question is, how do you create your wealth, which is what we said. So, is your income permissible? Can you pay zakat on your income? Remember that if your income is not permissible, you can't even pay zakat on it. All right, so what is impermissible income? We have riba, which we've mentioned. And how do you earn riba? From conventional deposits, conventional savings, treasury bills, and bonds. Also, shares in breweries, conventional banking stocks, and on-screen stocks. Income from gambling. Naira bet, should we bet? No, we shouldn't bet. And then, of course, income from unethical and illegal activities. You can't have an illegal activity and say, oh, let me go and give the mosque. You're not, supposed to do that at all. All right, so do you have options? Are there any opportunities for you? Yes, because the non-interest finance, or Islamic finance industry in Nigeria has been growing over the last 20 years. You have your non-interest banks, you have non-interest asset management companies, you have your takaful companies, which means insurance. You have non-interest pension. I hope all of us have moved our pensions from the conventional pensions to the non-interest pension now. And so you have products, you have agents to cook. So whether it's short-term products you want, like banking savings, mutual funds, or takaful savings, it's available. Whether it's low-risk instruments you want, like fixed income instruments or agents to cook, it's there. If you want to take a risk, you have stocks that are being screened, according to the Sharia on the stock exchange. You can. You can also have balance funds, which have also been Sharia certified. And of course, there's always real estate. But I'd like to say something. So, because we don't take riba, does that mean we are fine? How do we create wealth? How does money go into our pocket? So I'd like us to consider the following as well. I'm sure we've passed many buildings that have collapsed, and it makes you wonder, what wealth were they trying to save? Or what were they trying to do that ended up creating a death trap? How many of us have gone to the petrol station to buy fuel and suspect that, I don't really think they sold everything to me? Or have you ever gone to the market to buy something and at the bottom you see things that are spoiled? Have you ever been at work and on the internet or on the phone instead of working? A contract is a contract. It's not just a murabaha contract. If you have a contract with your employer, you have to follow the terms. So how do you make money? Then also, how many times have we promised to deliver on an assignment and haven't done so? Have you ever stolen somebody's work, presented it as your own, and gotten a promotion? And of course, wealth entered your pocket. How are you making your money? And then, of course, have you ever commandeered the properties of your relative because you are stronger or the oldest? How did money enter your pocket? Have you ever changed a bequest after you have seen it because no one will find out? Have you ever been asked to deliver a gift and just give part of it because nobody will know? How did wealth enter your pocket? And have you ever been in charge of an ajo or a contribution and embezzle part of it because no one would know? Finally, are you a debtor that took a loan from a non-interest organization but delayed repayment because they are not going to be charged interest? I pray that we're none of this, and may Allah continue to bless and guide us all. All right. So I think we've talked about how the first, I said there are two questions will be asked. How did you make your wealth? If we follow all of this, and of course the other lectures coming, you know how to make wealth the halal way. The second question is, how did you spend it? How did you spend it? So of course, there are different ways that we've been mandated. There's zakat. I'm sure everybody knows what zakat is. Zakat is the third pillar of Islam. It means compulsory charity. In Quran At-Tawbah, that's chapter 9, verse 103, it says, O Prophet, if there are properties, take an obligatory charity so that you may purify and sanctify them therewith and pray for them. Verily, your prayer is a source of security for them. Why is zakat important? Well, the first thing is it has empathy at its core. It encourages generosity. It builds goodwill amongst its people, right? Also, it discourages hoarding. Because if you know that if you build this wealth, you're going to have to pay zakat, then of course you can't keep it under your mattress, under your bed. You have to invest it. And so it continues to grow. It also discourages miserliness and promotes investment and growth. Zakat. With zakat, your wealth is purified. If you pay your zakat, because the poor is given their due. And then, of course, with consistent redistribution of wealth, the gap between the rich and the poor continues to reduce. And what this means is that the social ills that come with poverty are also reduced. In fact, I was reading Surah Baqarah, that's chapter 177, and there's a part that says, when they're describing the qualities of al-birr, someone with piety, and Allah states here that someone who gives out his wealth in spite of his love for it. Because Allah knows we all love wealth. So he's saying, you know what, that wealth you love, give the poor their due. I will purify it for you. I will bless you and increase it for you. So that's what a zakat is about. And if we do that, we have a zakat society, a very good society. Another one is endowments, which is waqf. So for waqf here is like institutionalized charity, where you have capital, and that capital is invested, and then it's the profits that are used to do charitable works. And what this means is that the capital continues to grow, and the good works continue to grow, and guess what? It can serve as sadaqatul jariyah, so that even after you pass away, your good works continue. Remember they said if you pass away, 3 works remain. One is a good work that is still generating ladder for you. So sadaqatul jariyah is a form of waqf, and we have a couple of that around now. So it's something that we should consider. Because if you give out sadaqah now, which is good, it ends. But if sadaqatul jariyah continues to grow, and you have that. So with this, sadaqah is voluntary charity, and you can give it out freely as you will. So finally, I leave you with this 2 questions once again. How did you make your wealth? And how did you spend it? Inshallah, we'll be able to answer this question to Allah's pleasure. And when the day finally comes. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Please stay. Takbirullah. Please let's recite Surah Al-Kawthar for her. She really pricked her conscience, and I hope as he was asking those questions, it was doing key in our minds. So may Almighty Allah give us the ability to answer those questions positively. So before she goes back to her seat, we have a token for her, and it's going to be presented by the chairman.
Thank you, ma'am, for this thought-provoking discourse and submissions that you are giving us today. The spiritual diet is well taken, and we pray Allah to make it positive uja for you and us here in this life and in the hereafter, inshallah, we could rattle. Thank you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.